If you're driving growth for your SaaS business, you need a go-to-market strategy. When you actually go out there to research all the different go-to-market strategies that are out there, the permutations, the possibilities, the options, it's super overwhelming, even for me, and I know a lot of these. So in this episode, I'm gonna give you 3 go-to-market strategy examples. I'm gonna give you 3 examples that you can look at, which will help you determine which one of these 3 key plays, these super plays, if you will, is the right one to drive growth for your SaaS business. So, intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you navigate the path to the next stage of growth with an unstoppable strategy. So if you are new to the channel, welcome. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon so you get notified every single time I drop a new episode that talks about growing SaaS businesses. Also, if you are part of my SaaS Go-To-Market coaching program, if you are part of this community, welcome back. It's really great to have you here. So on this episode, I'm going to be talking about go-to-market strategy examples. What I've realized is we did a lot of videos on how to create an ICP. We talked about how to use LinkedIn for lead generation. We talked about what your pricing strategy should be like. We talked about whether you should do outbound or inbound. We've talked about all these big pieces, and we haven't talked about, all right, what does a go-to-market strategy really look like? What is an example of that? So I'm going to be showing you 3 critical go-to-market strategy examples. I'm going to help you talk through which one is the right one for your SaaS business to drive growth. So if you're excited to dig in, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm basically going to just map out these 3 go-to-market strategy examples, all right? The first thing you really need to figure out for your go-to-market strategy is what kind of play is appropriate for your target audience and for the business that you're building. Now, there's really 2 kinds of plays that you can have. You can either have a direct model or you can have a channel model. And in the early stages, and most of the people that I talk with are early stage SaaS founders, they're sub 10 million ARR. Usually they're trying to get to 3 million ARR. Those are the people that join my SaaS Go-To-Market program. You want to pick one. You want to pick one because in the early days, it can be very, very enticing to try to spin up all of these, but it's impossible to be good at any one of these unless you really focus on it. So really what you want to figure out is, do you want to focus on a direct model or do you want to focus on a channel model? What's the difference? A direct model is where you're going direct to the customer, the consumer, the prospect, and you're saying, hey, I have a solution to a problem that you have and you should buy it. And you talk to them directly, right? A channel model is where you actually figure out who are the people that are already selling to your target customers and how you get them to sell what you have, or how do you get them to introduce you to those people so you can sell them as well. So that's more of a channel model where you're going through existing channels. Now, how do you figure out whether you should go direct or channel? 99% of the time, if you're an early stage company, you should go direct. There's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, you're too small for channel leaders to actually notice you. A lot of times they'll have biz dev people, they'll meet with you, and they'll talk about all these things, and they'll say they'll introduce you or they'll resell you, but they're gonna wait and see to see if you're worth it, to see if the market really loves what you're doing, or if the market tells them that they should use it. So a lot of times you can burn a lot of calories trying to build out a channel model, which is super enticing. Because the promise of a channel model is you don't have to build out a sales team. You barely have to build out a marketing team. You just have to enable this channel and give them a cut of revenues, and they'll do all the heavy lifting for you through their teams. It's super enticing. But in the early days, most channels won't really let you in, won't give you the time of day. So you're almost always better off going after a direct model. Now, when you choose a direct model, there's really one of 2 ways to mobilize your go-to-market strategy. The first way is to actually do inbound. All right. The second way is to do outbound. Now, the same principle applies over here as well. It can be very enticing to say we're going to do all the things. And what will end up happening is if you try to do all the things, you won't really hone in on your go-to-market machine. You'll be neither here nor there. And when it comes to inbound, it generally splits into search, which is like SEO, people searching for stuff and then landing on your content, or social, where they find you on social, again, around your content. And when it comes to outbound, it generally breaks down into you're running ads, or you're doing pure outbound email or cold calling. All right. So this is what I really wanted to show you. All these little strategies, all these little tactics can get super confusing in your head. I know it does for me. But when you really lay it all out, there's really three. You're either going direct inbound, which a lot of people just refer to as content marketing, or you're going direct outbound, where you're running ads, or you're actually cold emailing people or calling people, or you're going through channel, right? And again, with channel, this actually breaks down. You're either going into a marketplace, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, or you're going into some sort of a co-sell, resell relationship, right? So the question is, which one of these is right for you? Let's walk through this. The first question is, are you direct or channel? We already talked about that. For most early stage companies, you should really start with direct, especially if you're trying to really validate and get traction and get to product market fit, right? Once you get into direct, the question is, do you do inbound or do you do outbound? Okay, this is a rub over here, right? There's a trick to this. What I usually recommend is you should start with inbound and social. What I mean by that is you should start to build out your social presence and start sharing what you're building out if you're in the super early stages. If you've already got a business, you've already got revenues, then you should start doubling down on search and social at the same time and really lock down inbound. Now, why start with inbound? Starting with inbound is always a good idea because it'll attract the right people into your sphere. You don't fully know who your ICP is or the people that are most likely to resonate is. Like, you might know you're selling to salespeople, but you might not really know exactly what kind of salespeople or what type of salespeople, or if it's salespeople or some other type of, is it software salespeople or if it's like real estate salespeople. So inbound is always good to get out there because you kind of put your message out there and you see what you attract. Once you see what you attract, you can sift and sort through it and then say, you know what, this type of people are the best. Let me go double down on that, right? So that's why I always say start with inbound, start with the people in your immediate social circle, friends and family, friends of friends, and that will help you kind of hone in on what your ideal customer is based on the problem you're solving and help you really refine it. Once you've done inbound and you've gotten some traction on it, then I say turn on outbound. A lot of times, what people will do is they'll start with outbound and start spraying and praying, or they'll just start burning a lot of money on ads. And the problem is ads are very much determined on who you're targeting. Emails are very much determined on who you're targeting and also what you're saying. And a lot of times these are, Facebook is a giant machine gun. If you download an email automation tool, it's a giant machine gun. But what ends up happening is if you start with outbound and start doing these two things, it's almost like firing a giant machine gun with blanks. You don't have quality bullets. So this is why I always say start with inbound and then spin into outbound once you've really stress tested your core messaging, your core ICP, and you know exactly the type of person that's gonna buy from you. And based on that, you can start to spin up outbound. Once you've done outbound, then I would go into channel, because then you've got traction, you've got credibility, you've got customer success stories, and you can go into these channels where people are already aggregating, and there's companies spending marketing budgets to sell to the people that would buy your product. You can go into them and say, hey, this is the exact messaging we use, this is the exact value proposition we have, this is the exact type of customer that loves our products, here's the customer success stories, and then you can go hook into either one of the marketplaces they have, or you can get into some sort of a co-selling, reselling, co-marketing arrangement so you can get access to your ICP. And so these are essentially the three critical go-to-market strategy examples, and they almost all build on another. All the other stuff is essentially tactics. They're little things that you can try. But fundamentally, what you're really doing for your go-to-market strategy is you're starting with really strengthening inbound to hone in on who you're selling to, what your strategic message is, and really getting that flow going. Then you turn on outbound to go after that specific group of people and more people like that. And then you're going into channels to say, hey, we already sell to these people, you sell to these people, let's do something together, and we'll go faster. And they essentially kind of build on top of each other, one after another. When you start to see how this doesn't have to be that complicated, building a go-to-market machine, you just really need to pick on the key go-to-market strategy example that I highlighted here. You want to start with direct and go with inbound, then you want to turn on outbound, and then you want to turn on channels. You go in these steps, life can be a lot easier in driving growth for your SaaS business. If you start to see that, be sure to go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Also comment below with a yes if you're starting to see what I'm talking about, if you're starting to get some clarity around this. Now, let's talk about one last thing. here's the key thing. Let's go back to that analogy that I used around machine guns and bullets, right? Each of these things hook into real platforms, right? If you think about search, YouTube is a real platform. People are searching for stuff on YouTube, and I give them videos, and then I introduce them to my coaching programs. Like, that's a real inbound content machine that I have. Social is just the same. Social, you can think of YouTube as social, but really I think about LinkedIn and Twitter as social, right? Here's the thing. These are incredibly powerful platforms, and you think about Facebook ads and Google ads, they will gladly take your money, right? You think about the email automation tools, they'll also gladly take your money and send out a lot of emails. But here's the thing. All of this is dependent on the core, your core strategy. And there's certain things in your core strategy that if you don't define, you're gonna be firing blank bullets. What are those things? There's certain key things that you actually have to define and learn and kind of iterate on, right? The first thing is your ICP, your ideal customer profile. Who are your ideal customers? Where do they live? What do they look like? What jobs do they have? And why do they buy? What's the core problem that they have? What are some big macro trends happening with them? This is what determines your ideal customer profile and also determines your initial customer profile. Meaning you can have a really large TAM and a very big ideal customer profile, but there's always gonna be a subset of those people that are more likely to buy now. And that's gonna get you to your next stage of growth. Let's just say you're $1 million now, you wanna get to 3 million ARR. Your initial customer profile is gonna be the one that really gets you to that 3 million if you really focus on it, because they're gonna move the fastest. So you're gonna have to figure out how to define that as part of your core strategy. The second thing you're gonna have to define is your strategic narrative. This includes your positioning. It also includes your value prop. Essentially, it explains why you exist, what's the big problem that exists for your ICP, and how you solve it, right? And usually this whole thing I kind of call a manifesto, and I've talked about this in this channel before. And then the third thing you need to do is actually run a consistent Broadway show. And that's where really all of this comes in, right? So you can do all of these knit things. You can, post a YouTube video, or you can do a LinkedIn post, and you can actually email 100 people, or you can run ads and burn $100 or $1,000 or even $30,000. All of these things are easy to do. They're giant machine guns. They'll gladly take your money and your time. However, unless you do these three things, they won't work. You'll be firing blank bullets, you'll be burning your brand, you'll be burning your reputation, and you'll be getting mixed signals. You won't really know if it's working. When you actually take the time to build out your ICP, your strategic narrative, and then you run a consistent Broadway show, either an inbound or then outbound, and then with channels, when you do that consistently in what I call a Broadway show, that's when this whole thing starts to come together. Right? That's where the power is. And a lot of times, two things happen. Founders get overwhelmed by all the permutations that live over here, right? Do I do inbound? Do I do outbound? Do I do Twitter? Do I do LinkedIn, right? That's not important. And also what they do is they get overwhelmed, they kind of get scattered across all of these, and at the same time, they don't do the work to really get their core right so that they're firing real quality bullets. You guys starting to get this? If you're starting to understand how all of this comes together, and at the end of the day, there's really these three go-to-market strategies that you have to pick between: inbound, outbound, channels, and you go one after the other and you can compound and grow it. That's where the power really comes together. So if you're starting to get this, hit me with a yes in the comments below. Smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And also lastly, be sure to share this video with your teammates. If they understand this on what's going to drive growth for the SaaS business and how to think about building out the go-to-market strategy using these examples that I showed here, then everyone starts to get aligned, you start to grow a lot faster. Now, if you're building out your SaaS business and you're driving to growth and you're looking at, all right, how do we get this go-to-market strategy right? How do we drive growth? You've got some revenues, you say you're trying to get to 3 million ARR or 10 million ARR. If you're trying to get to that next stage, I encourage you to check out my SaaS Go-to-Market program. Inside of my SaaS Go-to-Market coaching program, we essentially help you with this core strategy, and then we help you run this core Broadway show. So this is how it works. Essentially, it's a coaching program and a training program. You're gonna be doing all of this anyway, but we give you a proven framework and a blueprint to follow so that you can do it, and I'll actually coach you through the whole thing. So if you're interested in that, go to tkkader.com/GTM. When you go over there, you'll learn more about the program. And if you hit the giant yellow button, you'll be able to schedule a strategy call with me. Inside of the strategy call, we'll actually talk through where you are in your business, where you're trying to get to. And based on that, I'll tell you if we can actually help you through the go-to-market program. If we can, you'll be able to come on, you'll be able to get hooked in, and you can create a very differentiated go-to-market strategy, expanding from inbound to outbound to channel, using these 3 core things that you actually define inside of the program, and I help you through. And that way you'll be able to actually accelerate your growth to the next stage, whether it be 3 million or 10 million, depending on where you are right now. All right, cool. So that's what I wanted to walk you through today. Go-to-market strategy examples. Go check out the SaaS Go-to-Market program. If you're literally working through this problem right now, you don't want to go at it alone, you want a framework to follow, you want my coaching. And also be sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Now, we put a lot of effort into these videos, so it would mean a lot to my team and I if you also share this with a friend, a co-founder. We want to get these videos out to as many SaaS founders as possible so we can have maximal impact. I want to thank you for joining. And remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business, but when you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK. I'll see you in the next episode or the one-on-one strategy call that you can go book right now. Take care. So are you starting to see how it doesn't have to be that complicated? Let's start over. I screwed up. All right. Sorry.